You're listening to Echoes of Jewish History. I'm your host, Jimmy Bitton. Today on Echoes of Jewish History, we welcome Gabe Groisman, attorney, public servant, and unapologetic advocate for Jewish dignity. Gabe has been recognized as one of the Jerusalem Post's top 25 Young Zionist Visionaries, a testament not only to his leadership, but to his ability to turn conviction into action. From passing landmark anti-BDS legislation in Bal Harbour that rippled across the globe, to building coalitions that bring Jewish voices into the center of civic life, Gabe's work embodies what it means to lead with courage. At a time when young Jews face hostility on campus, in the workplace, and online, Gabe offers a powerful model for how the next generation can remain proud, vocal, and resilient. Our conversation today is about more than just policy and politics. It's about how we nurture Jewish identity, build global alliances, and empower tomorrow's leaders to transform challenge into strength. Gabe, you were recently recognized as one of the Jerusalem Post's top 25 Zionist Visionaries. What does that recognition mean to you personally, and what responsibility comes with it?
Look, recognitions are always nice, but they're not the reason I do what I do. I've decided long ago that just going to work and coming home, raising a family, wasn't enough. I also wanted to give back to our community and be a fighter for our community in any way, shape, or form that I can. And that shape and form has changed throughout my career and shifted based on the tools that I have, whether as a lawyer, as a mayor, and now doing government affairs. But it's the common thread is that I will always and have always fought for our people, fought against anti-Semitism, fought for Jewish pride, fought to show other Jews the beauty of their history, their identity, who we are as a people, fought for the state of Israel, the land of Israel, and all of those things. And recognitions, of course, they're nice when they come, but they're not the reason why I do what I do.
Many young Jews today are navigating identity in a hostile environment, on campus, in professional spaces, and online. From your experience, what tools or mindset do they most need to remain proud, vocal, and resilient?
Look, traveling outside the United States to meet with Jewish communities all over the world is always very interesting. The challenges have some similarities, but lots and lots of differences, both in sort of the way people are brought up, let's say in South America or in Europe or in Australia, but also in the challenges that they face. On the surface, it seems the same. You can just say, anti-Semitism, but it's totally different. And the political landscape is totally different, and the media landscape is totally different. And working together with them on different issues, as I have, I've worked on cases with people in Europe, with Jews in Europe. In Spain, I can think of a case that we brought related to the singer Matisyahu, who was banned from a concert for being Jewish, to working with the Jewish community in Panama and Argentina, and getting calls from Jews in Australia and France and Belgium on different things. You know, we are really, Am Echad, Lev Echad, one nation, one heart. Like we're really one. But the challenges that we face are different, and it's important to be there for each other, but also not to just impose the solutions that we find here that work here over there, and wherever that over there is. Right, each place we have to listen to the community there and try to learn and figure out how to be most helpful.
Thank you, Gabe. That's very insightful. And my next question is about history. Jewish history is filled with moments where young voices led transformative movements, from the Maccabees to early Zionist pioneers. What historical examples inspire you most when thinking about the role of youth today?
Look, it's not just Jewish history that's filled with transformative moments from the younger generation. It's history altogether. And you ask, which examples inspired me the most, that's not really the way I think. The way I think is that I think in terms of personal responsibility. I mean, I think of maybe Yoni Netanyahu, which is the Prime Minister Netanyahu's brother, who fell in Entebbe in 1976, and his book Letters of Jonathan Netanyahu, which is a catalog of letters he wrote to his family. Well, first to his girlfriend when he moved to the United States, about his yearning to be back in Israel, or then when he went back to Israel, his letters back to his family about being in Israel and serving and just what it's like. That's the way I like to look at these things, not just sort of trying to look historical context of, a young Theodore Herzl and say, well, if he did it, then you can do it. Of course you can do it. I think young people have this sort of chip on their shoulder sometimes of, well, maybe I can't do things. I'm only 19, I'm only 20, I'm only 25. Surprise, guys, it continues into your 40s until at some point you realize you're in it, right? This is life. So everybody has the opportunity. If you are inspiring, you will inspire people. Like my late Rabbi Shalom Lipskar of blessed memory used to say, words from the heart enter the heart. So speak from the heart, know what you're talking about, and lead, and don't worry about how old you are.
Thanks very much for that, Gabe. I think that's a powerful message. It's funny you mentioned Jonathan Netanyahu. One of the most profound books I've ever read were the letters of Jonathan Netanyahu, a self-portrait of a hero. I have it here, and I have here marked off a few quotes that I think really resonate with what you just said. So let me just find here, if I go to the tab, that I like to save these types of quotes. So the first letter is from the 6th of March, 1969, and he writes, "On us rests the duty of keeping our country safe." And again, we're talking here about young conscripts and soldiers, in their early 20s. And another quote I like as well that I think resonates with what you just said comes from the 23rd of May, 1963, where he writes, "Man should put the days of his life to the best possible use." You've worked across legal, political, and community frameworks to defend Israel and Jewish dignity. How can young Jews and allies worldwide feel the same sense of agency, that their voice truly matters on the global stage?
Look, while it's definitely not easy today to be a young college student, a Jewish college student in particular, with all the craziness happening on campuses and the cancel culture, people are afraid when you speak to college students for being scared of being public in their pride of their Judaism, of their Zionism, of who they are as people. But you know what? That's a reality we live in, and not just on college campuses, all over the world. And you have to choose how you're going to live your life. And from my perspective, there's only one way to be, which is proud, to be strong, to be knowledgeable about our history, about our people, about the state of Israel, about its relationship here in the United States, about Jewish history in the United States, Jewish history overall. Those are all things that are critical for all Jews to know. And the truth is, there's not that many of us in the world. There's about 6 million Jews only in the United States, about 7 million in Israel, and 15 million total around the world. That means no one gets a pass, and it's everybody's responsibility to stand up. It's everybody's responsibility to know what the heck they're talking about, and not to fall into this TikTok culture of just flipping through a few stories and thinking that you know what's going on in the world, but instead actually being knowledgeable and reading and keeping up with things and gaining a real understanding of who you are and the things that are important to you. And that's the responsibility not just of young Jews today, but of all of us.
Your anti-BDS ordinance in Bal Harbour began as a local initiative, but had international consequences. How can we show young activists that small actions in their own communities can scale into real change?
Look, when I passed the anti-boycott, anti-BDS ordinance in Bal Harbour, 9 years ago or something, we were the first in the country for a city to do it. And people kept asking, why this small city? Well, first of all, we had a small issue with the church who had boycotted Israel. But second, it proved, and I spoke about this a lot over the years, that it doesn't matter if you're just one person sitting in your apartment in, enter small city here, okay, in a small place. Today, with the way media works, if you're doing something good and you know how to get the message out, it will spread. Our small town of Bal Harbour, less than 10,000 people, we were recognized all over the world for the work that we did against BDS. It took me to speak at the Knesset in Israel a couple times, to the United Nations, at conferences there twice, and to really just catapult a career of activism, honestly. And it's not why I did it. I did it to solve the problem that was in front of me. And maybe I also thought, look, it's just a small action in a small municipality. But I learned quickly that it doesn't matter. It matters what you do and how you do it. And people will follow if it's a good thing. So I think people shouldn't fear, saying, well, I'm only, I'm sitting in my apartment in Minnesota and I have this idea. Great, so write it and get it out there, get it out on the media, on social media, and keep pushing. It doesn't matter if you're at a small place. It's really about having big ideas and pushing as hard as you can.
Gabe, in this moment of crises and renewal, what does Zionism mean to the next generation? And how do we ensure that it is not just defended, but actually celebrated?
Yeah, I don't know that I would define this as a moment of crisis. I mean, the state of Israel today is in a stronger place than it was before October 7th. Of course, we've lost over 2,000 people in this war. It was 1,200 on October 7th, and we're almost at 1,000 soldiers that have been killed since. And then there's been some additional casualties around the war. It's been tough. It was definitely an existential war, but we are on the other side of it. I think this moment, when you're looking at it from like a Zionist perspective, you could think of our parents' and grandparents' generation who had the opportunity to be part of the building of the state of Israel. People mortgaged their freaking houses, right? People were out there giving everything they can to help the building of the state of Israel from all over the world. So a concept that we prayed for thousands of years, and it actually coming to fruition. That generation, I guess it's now 2 generations ago, just gave it their all, right? They gave it their all to try to help put the country on its feet. The Declaration of Independence of Israel calls for Jews in the diaspora to help in that way, and they did. And now, whether we like it or not, after 2 years of a war, the war is not totally over, although we're definitely in a new era. We have now the obligation. We Jews around the world, we supporters of Israel all around the world, we Zionists all over the world, to not just defend the state of Israel, but help the rebuilding, because it will need a rebuilding while the economy is doing well. When you look at the GDP, when you look at the markets in Israel, the markets are doing fantastic. But the day-to-day businesses, the small retail businesses, the hotels, the wineries, the cafes, the taxi drivers, they've taken a huge hit. Tourism has, gone through the floor because flights were canceled. People are afraid to come. Now people are starting to come again. I urge that people to look at these next 10 years as years where we have the not just opportunity but obligation to help in the rebuilding of the state of Israel. We should be excited about it.
Our last question for you today, Gabe. Thank you so much for your time. If you could deliver one message directly to young Jews and their allies listening around the world, what would it be?
Look, my message to the youth around the world is be proud of who you are. If you look at the protests all over the world, they're full of young people who are lost. They don't know who they are. Whatever the trend of the day is, they're out there, they're protesting, they're giving it their all. And then if you ask them 1 or 2 questions, they don't even know what they're giving their all to. So, you have the zchut, you have the blessing, you have the luck, if there's luck, to have been born into one of the most unique people in the world, one of the most incredible peoples in the world, in my perspective. Small people who have persevered through generations and generations of attacks, but not just, again, I use the word persevere, not just survived, but succeeded despite the circumstances, despite how many times people have tried to hold us down and to push us down and to kill us and for pogroms, through October 7th, many, many times over, through the Holocaust. And our people, we don't build refugee camps, we build nations, and that's who we are. And we have to remember that our values and who we are don't change with the times. We can always be kind and welcoming, and we should be, of all other people and all other ways of thinking, but we also should be sure-footed in our history and who we are as people. and people will respect you for that, and you'll be more successful in being part of that. And not just that, I promise you to the young people that living a Jewish life, living a life in accordance, in whatever level you can do, but some level of religious observance, being tied to the state of Israel, to Israeli culture, to the state, to the rebuilding of the state, to your community, being a big, strong member of your community, very involved in your local Jewish community. All of those things, raising a Jewish family, sending your kids to Jewish school, continuing to learn as an adult, your Jewish history, your Jewish texts, Jewish learning, all of that put together will yield a beautiful, rich life. And I don't mean rich financially, I mean rich, full of blessings and full of meaning and full of happiness. And don't be discouraged because we've lived through now the last couple of years of difficult times. Our people have lived through many difficult times, and we always continue to persevere. But it's not that it happens automatically. It takes the will of the people, and you're a part of those people. So thank you so much.
That's very profound. I love that idea of merging personal destiny with collective obligation. And, in the same spirit, Rabbi Jonathan Sacks reminded us that faith is not certainty. Faith is the courage to live with uncertainty, teaching that strength comes from moral commitment rather than comfort. Resilience, then, is not merely surviving difficulty. It is choosing to turn vulnerability into service. And young people today can draw from this heritage. Treat each day, as Yoni Netanyahu urged, as something to be put to the very best possible use. And see leadership not as a title, but as the willingness to carry responsibility, even when the path is unclear. That brings us to the end of another episode of Echoes of Jewish History. Gabe, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on the show. And to our audience, see you next Tuesday.